Welcome to Net Profit College Basketball. Saturday, February the 5th. We're back. It's the Saturday edition of the show. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack. Saturday college basketball card. We're ready for it. It's a huge one. Let's get right into it. We got a big card. We'll always, as we do, start with the early tip-offs, the noon Eastern games. Got a good one in the Big 12. We've got Oklahoma taking on Oklahoma State, Bedlam basketball version. Oklahoma State 2.5-point home favorites in this game, 131.5 the total in this one. Should be a pretty good game. Oklahoma State, obviously, they didn't have a great start to the year, and that's putting it mildly. Team that with Cade Cunningham and the crew last year made a very good run in the NCAA tournament. Probably this team's got work to do, to make sure they're involved in March proceedings this year. They're off a 4-game losing streak going into this game, losing a bunch of close games too. I mean, this team's just had a tough inability, if you will, to win close games. I mean, a 5-point loss at Texas, a home loss in overtime against Iowa State. They had a huge lead early against Florida last Saturday in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. And C-Mac, I had Oklahoma State in that game, and frustrating to see them just have an absolutely brutal second half. They end up losing by 9, 81-72. And then their last game against Kansas State, again, right there, opportunity to win, they fall short. So this is a team that's pretty damn awful lately at close games, so it's hard to trust them laying 2.5 here in this game. Oklahoma, on the other hand, they've lost a couple in a row. Home loss to TCU, bit of a head-scratcher there that they played so poorly. Auburn, not so much. Auburn, obviously terrific, but, they've had their own ups and downs. But you look at the losses, Kansas by 3, Baylor, they lost by double digits. They've had a pretty tough schedule. Two teams that are a little bit erratic, but with Oklahoma State, Conor, it's difficult to lay points with them. They're on a 4-game losing streak. Every game that's been close lately for them, they've found their way on the losing end of it. So I guess I'm not involved in the game, but if I had to throw out a lean at least, it'd probably be Oklahoma. It's very difficult to lay points with the Cowboys. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, this is ugly. I mean, sorry to get off on a shitty note here with this game, but I'm not going to bet it. It's not going to get my money. We got over 100, 30 games. This one, I don't want it. Like you talked about, this Oklahoma State team's not very good. They don't close out games. Maybe this would be a game they win, but do you want to lay the 2.5? I mean, that's the big question here. Obviously, Bedlam rivalry. It's just one I don't want to be involved with. And for the most part, Oklahoma's been an under team. Oklahoma State lately's gone over, but before that, they played a bunch of unders. Early on the season, they gave up a ton of points and played overs. So it's just, pass.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Next up, we've got, let me just see here. It is, I'm going to bring it up because it's Furman's just ridiculous right now on offense. They're laying 11 against Greensboro, SoCon matchup. 130.5 the total in this game. I mean, Furman at some point is going to cool off. I mean, the amount of perimeter shots this team is hitting right now is just ridiculous. I mean, their offense is very efficient as it is, but, they scored 102 against the Citadel. And if they didn't have mercy for the Citadel, they could have scored 120 in that game. They had, I believe, 86 points or something at halftime. Of that game, Furman. I mean, they are just absolutely lights out offensively. They're good to score high 70s, if not 80 or 90 in a lot of their games. They're just on fire from 3-point range, and that's the key right now when you're going to play this team is, are you a good 3-point defense? And when you look at UNCG going into this game, Conor, the last 5 games, they've given up 45% from 3-point range, now going up against a team that shoots better than 40% from 3-point range. So I think for me, it's Furman team total over in this one. I don't want to trust Greensboro, offensively. Furman can give up points, but, you could see a situation where, they've had some scores this year where they've won 80 to 62. So I don't really want to necessarily trust Greensboro to score. I think I can trust Furman to score because they just can't be stopped right now. They're consistently, finding ways to score. And now they get to face a team that's, like I said, their 3-point defense has been pretty bad the last 5 games. Greensboro, when you're giving up 45% from 3-point range, that's not good. So team total rather for Furman here, it's only 70.5. Now, you're not going to see as many possessions because Greensboro is a very slow-paced team. Furman's not a fast-paced team, but the reason why they have so many high scores is because they're efficient. The majority of their possessions end with a made bucket. So that's why they overcome lack of pace with points, because they're just so damn efficient. They shoot the three so well. But now they're playing a bad perimeter D, over 70.5 team total for Furman. I don't know. It looks pretty cheap to me here, Connor. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it is as well. I mean, there's just no way I want to back Greensboro in this spot. I mean, this team's lost 7 of 8. They had one win at East Tennessee, 80-76. But other than that, they've been getting pretty much blown out by right around this number. So your look on the team total is probably where I go. And I think you could even lay it here. I mean, that's how well Furman's playing and how bad this Greensboro team's been, especially lately, the last month or so of the year.
I think so.
Shout out to our guy Jake the Snake Kaiser with the $5 dono. Forgot to mention that. Thanks, my guy.
Jake Kaiser, one of the true blue loyalists to the channel, to all the shows here and everybody on it. So Jake, thank you very much for the $5 dono on this Saturday. We definitely appreciate that. Let's go to Big Ten action next up. Illinois, Indiana. Pretty much pick them here. 137.5 the total in this game. When I look at it here, I think the total going up, there's some merit to that. I think it's a potential. This total could be a little bit low. The only concern, again, is that very early start. I'm torn on the side. Illinois, to me, is better than Indiana. And Illinois is really playing some good basketball. That was a really impressive win against Wisconsin earlier this week. They really didn't give Wisconsin a chance to be in the game. You know, that was a wire-to-wire, we were in control of the game type of victory for Illinois. They're playing really good. I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to just jump in front of this Illinois Express right now, because they're playing some really good basketball. But look, they got Purdue on Tuesday. A huge win against Wisconsin earlier this week. This kind of feels like an in-between spot for them, tough spot. And that Purdue game, by the way, they lost in overtime against Purdue earlier this season at home. So they're going to go on the road at Purdue. I actually think Illinois is going to be a really good bet, Connor, on Tuesday when they go on the road against Purdue in revenge. And we know Purdue is going to be laying points because they're going to be at home in that game. And we also know Purdue at times laying points is not a great bet lately because their defense has kind of been up and down. So I think Illinois in a revenge spot at Purdue on Tuesday is going to be a good team to back, the Illini, in that game. But in this game, I don't know if I'd want them here. It feels like it's a little tricky spot in between a big win against Wisconsin, a huge revenge game against Purdue, and you got Indiana that's played their best basketball consistently all year here at Assembly Hall. Now, they don't have Rob Finney today. That's significant because he's been a catalyst for the Hoosiers. No question about that. Can they overcome? That's the question. I'm passing the game. I still don't want to go in front of Illinois. They're playing that well right now, but you do have to respect Indiana at home. They're very good. There's a reason they're a pick 'em. There's a reason they're now actually a 1-point home favorite in some spots here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, I see 1.5s, 2s even at some spots. You talked about it. Indiana's, guy wrote Nuke Worker, 13-1 at home. Indiana's been really, really good. But like you talked about, I've watched these teams. Eyeball test here. Illinois is way better, and they're healthy right now. They're pretty healthy with all their main guys in. I don't love this. This early slate was pretty rough of games, the noon Eastern. I could only look Illinois, and I don't love it. I'm just kind of as a lean. But I can only take them if you're going to get a bucket. You could even go money line. And I have respect for Indiana. That's why it's not like a play for me. But that's the only look I could have too here. And I agree kind of with the movement that's gone up. Illinois games have somehow got over. But like I always say, a morning game, this could turn into a Big Ten rock fight and stay under here.
Yeah, excellent team. We know that. Trent Frazier, the veteran. They have a Kofi Coburn, their terrific NBA-bound center, back after he was out for a while. They've got Andre Curbelo back, their point guard. I mean, they got all hands on deck now, Illinois. And now you're seeing the team that's got legit, I would say Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four potential even. I think the ceiling is that high for Illinois when they're fully healthy. And we're definitely starting to see that. Maxwell's always a question. You know how we have the injury report, guys? Questionable, doubtful. Maxwell's always questionable when it comes to this Saturday show. We'll see. I sent him the link. If he wants to jump in, I said, go for it. If not, that's okay. He's always a questionable when it comes to the Saturdays. All right, let's go to another Southern Conference game here. Mercer, Chattanooga. Chattanooga, 10.5, 11-point home favorites, 136.5 the total. I think it's a few too many points here. Look at series history. Chattanooga has not been able to beat Mercer by big margins. You look at it, the last several head-to-head encounters between these two programs. Of course, they're conference teams. The last several meetings, you saw an overtime game last year, 81-77. Chattanooga won by 3 in the first meeting at home, 83-80. And then 2 years ago, Mercer won by 5. Chattanooga won by 9. The year before that, Mercer won by 5. Chattanooga won by 3. The year before that, Mercer won by 4. Mercer won by 9. So they actually swept the season series. I think it's just too many points. There's been no evidence of Chattanooga beating this team by double digits. Chattanooga's off a head-scratcher loss, too. Not a good one, if you ask me. In their last game, didn't play very well in a 80-72 loss to Samford. Samford were not one of the better teams, a terrible defensive team. They lost that game. Mercer, on the other hand, a very impressive home win as underdogs against Wofford. Wofford, I would say an upper quadrant of the conference team, the Wofford Terriers. Mercer beat them 67-62. They obviously got crushed by Furman, which was Furman, obviously the class of this conference. They lost at Samford too, actually. But, they've actually had some decent results too throughout the course of the conference season as well. And I just think when you look at these two teams head to head, we've seen a lot of games that have been single-digit margins. So the plus 11 with Mercer kind of seems a little bit high to me here in this one. Total right now at, and by the way, the over might be the play here as well. I mean, you look at it with these two teams and you look at it with Mercer and Chattanooga head to head. They've had a lot of higher scoring games as well. I know Mercer's been on an under run. That would be the only thing that would concern me. But head to head, last year we had 83-80, 81-77. So we had some high scoring games. And this total, obviously, in this game is only 136.5. So I think the dog and the over are what I'm looking at here. Any thoughts on this one?
I agree with you. Kind of like the Furman game, I'd lay it if I had to here. I'm not gung-ho about this game either. But it's hard for me with Mercer. You talked about they played well in this series. I was just looking it up as well. But they can play bad basketball time. I've watched this Mercer team. They've done all right on the road. They just have a big win. Like you talked about, a bad loss at Samford for Chattanooga, 7-point favorites. But I think 11 is too much. So if I were to, I would, same thing. And I'd lean to the over, like you said. But this has already moved 3 points from last night. So kind of tough to give out now at 137.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, Wake Forest and Florida State. We got Florida State 2.5-point home favorites, 146.5 the total in this game. Wake Forest absolutely handed it to Florida State earlier this year when these two teams played back on January 4th. It was a 76-54 beatdown in favor of Steve Forbes and the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. A Wake Forest team that outside of a 12-point loss at home against Duke and a 94-72 loss at Syracuse, they've played some really, really good basketball. And they are a team that they've picked it up from a pace perspective. They've picked it up from an offensive efficiency standpoint. I mean, they're putting up big numbers every single game, 91 in their last game. I mean, they've got really 5 guys that can all contribute. In Alondis Williams is an outstanding player, fun to watch. Davian Williamson, Jake LaRavia has won a terrific transfer that Steve Forbes was able to get for this team in the offseason. Dallas Walton, Isaiah Musius. It's a really, really good team. They can score inside. They can score outside. They run very good, crisp, good offense. It's tough to stop. Yet, for as good as Wake's playing and as inconsistent as Florida State's been, who have lost actually 3 straight, both straight up and against the spread, in their last 3 to Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, and Clemson, all losses for Florida State. Yet they're favored in this game, and they're taking money. Florida State's actually bet up from 1.5 to 2.5. Revenge spot, kind of a desperate times, call for desperate measures type of situation here for Florida State. They need to win in the worst way, but I ain't laying points with them. I understand the spot for them. It's like desperate times, revenge spot. Wake's the better team, and I'm very tempted still to take Wake here, plus 2.5. This keeps going up. I'm going to have to get in on it. What I am getting in on, Conor, is the over here. 146.5. I get it. It is a very early game, but this Wake team is not only going over the total, They are flying over the total. 5 straight games we've seen, especially the last 4, 98-76, 87-57 against BC, which is a terrible offensive team, and they don't play fast. And then the last 2 games got into the 160s, both of them. They've picked up their pace. They're very good offensively. I think 146.5, we can get there, and it goes over that number. What do you think here, CMAC, Wake, and FSU?
Yeah, the early start only freaks me out, but you talked about it. This Wake team, after going unders, just points have been crazy lately in these games, all in the 80s. They had the bad loss at Syracuse, 94-72. It's just a circle the wagon spot here for Florida State. I mean, this is a game they need to win after 3 straight losses. I agree with you. I like this Wake team. I just think they're I don't know. They're not there yet. You know what I mean? They've come a long way. You know, it's tough to win on the road. They beat Virginia. They've had a few good road wins. But I don't know. It's a pass for me. But I agree with you. Even this early start, with everything going, I could only look over if you're going to look at the total.
Yeah, all right. We got the Big East now. Very good one early on. UConn and Villanova. Villanova 4.5, 5-point home favorites. 128.5 the total in this game. I like the under here, and I agree with the total going down a bit. Now it opened 129.5. You know, so to me it was probably a decent number, but I don't know if I can trust Villanova offensively anymore. I mean, that was supposed to be a slam dunk revenge. And look, the one thing usually you can count on with Villanova is in a revenge spot, they're very good. But they were not against Marquette, and they lost to Marquette at home earlier this year. And usually in a revenge spot, that team is bet on all the way. Most times when they lose to a team earlier in the year, they come back and they beat down that team in the rematch. That did not happen against Marquette. 83-73 loss. Maybe this team it's just, to me, at times they look like they're ready to flip that switch and look like that national championship contender, and other times they aren't. So it's very frustrating. Keep in mind, a Cook is questionable with a foot injury here for UConn. We'll have to see if he ends up playing, and a lot of reliance on Gillespie. 100% true. Raymond said that in the chat. That's the problem. And it seems like when Gillespie it has to carry them too much and the rest of the team has not picked up the slack, that's also a concern. They've got Justin Moore and Brian Antoine, both questionable due to injuries going into this game as well this afternoon, hosting UConn. UConn's off a 59-55 home loss to Creighton as 10.5-point favorites. So, they'll be looking to bounce back here in this game. On the road as a dog, they've been pretty good. Remember, Seton Hall, 4-point dog. They lose by 3 in overtime. Butler, they win convincingly on the road. They end up beating DePaul by 7 on the road. They beat Marquette and cover on the road. They've actually been pretty good on the road lately, this UConn team. I understand why they're taking money here. It's tough right now. I took Villanova earlier this week against Marquette. I thought, the revenge spot, you just do not say anything more. They're good in these spots, and the fact they weren't, and not only didn't win that game, but they were like trailing by margin most of that game. Like, it's not like it was close and Marquette pulled away late. Marquette was in control most of that game. It's a red flag for me with Villanova. I would lean to the underdog here, the Huskies. What do you think here, C-Mac? Good one in the Big East. I think this is your Fox game at noon Eastern. It's a good one here, UConn, Villanova.
Yeah, I think this is the closest one that I liked in this early slate. And it's tough because I like this Nova team, but you talked about it. They rely so much, on Gillespie, on to hit the 3-point shot. If they're not doing that, they're dealing with some injuries like you talked about with Moore and a few others. UConn's dealing with that bad loss at home to Creighton. You mentioned that. I just think 5.5 is too much here. I know Nova's played their best basketball, except that Marquette loss at home. And it's just a strong lean for me. But I take the points with UConn as well. I think this could be close, so I'd want the points.
All right, I'll throw this one out quickly. Samford, Citadel. Samford 2-point road favorites, 157. I like points. Citadel is back to that all offense, no defense type of play. We saw that clearly against Furman the other night. Furman did whatever they wanted. They got into the 100. They broke the century mark against this Citadel team. On the flip side, you've got Samford's not a great defensive team. You're going to get pace on both sides as well. Total's already gone up, so there's nothing really more to say. It's two teams that are better offensively than defensively. They both play fast. Both should both should be able to get the points. It's going to take some really, really way below average shooting percentages in this game, I think, to keep it under the total. So there you go, Samford Citadel over the total. Conor, what do you think?
Hey, you beat the street, all right, bookie monster. Sometimes Max is our NCAA basketball guru guy, okay? But Bano, he goes through everything, probably, in the beginning. So if you don't like it, you don't have to listen.
Conor's got thoughts and opinions. He's just nice and short and to the point with them. That's all.
Yeah. Hey, we got to keep the show under 2 hours here. So
we do have a shit ton of games. I agree.
There should be tons of points in this one, obviously. I haven't bet it. It's at 157. Samford plays zero defense. The Citadel. I think even here at 157, this gets over. I mean, I think both teams should be in the 80s. It's just Citadel has had trouble shooting. And really, I do not want Samford on the road laying 2.5 points. I mean, I know they just are coming off that big win against Chattanooga, but no way do I want them here laying points.
I agree with that. It's tough to trust them in a spot like this, no question. Let's go to Auburn and Georgia here. SEC. Auburn 16-point road favorites, 152 the total in this game. This is another one where now I cashed a ticket with Georgia and Arkansas over, and my concern about the over in that game was Georgia's offense sometimes against really good defensive teams doesn't work. But it did in that game. They actually shot 40 of 71. It was a terrific shooting night for Georgia. The problem is they couldn't stop Arkansas. They give up 99, and they end up losing 99-73. They're an awful, awful, awful defensive team, Georgia. Horrendous. They can't stop anything. They can't stop anyone. They don't guard the perimeter. They don't guard around the rim, inside the arc. They don't do anything defensively. And Tom Crean teams have been that way going back to Indiana and even Marquette, his very first coaching gig. They were never very good defensive teams whenever he coached them. And it's been more of the same here for Georgia. So Auburn, maybe Auburn team total might be the safer bet here because you would think that they're going to be able to do whatever they want here. 83.5, they could hit that here in this game against Georgia. Auburn's got Arkansas on deck. That's the maybe one bit of hesitancy you have because that's a pretty big game in the SEC coming up is that one with Auburn at Arkansas, which is a Tuesday night game. So that's a big one. Maybe a look ahead, but I don't even know if a look ahead matters. Georgia, they're just not guarding anybody. It's just too easy to get clean looks against this team at the moment. So, and you look at recent series history, earlier this year they played in Auburn, 83 points for Auburn. Now that's the issue. The team total here is 83.5. So they need 84 or more, but they scored 86 against Georgia last year in January. When they played in Georgia last year, Auburn scored 95-77 win over Georgia. The full game over, it got there with room to spare, and Auburn, of course, scored 95. So if they score that here, it cashes the team total. So what I might do here, Conor, is a split, half and half. I might go half Auburn team total, over 83.5, and also half of my stake on 152 for the full game over the total as well. Because the one thing Georgia can do is at home, they do seem to put up better offensive numbers. That has been the one consistent. So I think you can get enough out of Georgia to help you with the 152 to get that over. So that's the way I'd play this one. Conor, what do you think here, Auburn, Georgia?
Yeah, this is interesting. Auburn playing the best team, number one in the country. Bruce Pearl, they signed him, the whole contract and all that, which I get is deserving. He's done a great job. This is a ton of points on the road in the SEC. I know Georgia's bad. They looked horrible in that Arkansas game, and this could be very similar. But you're right. When I've seen them all year, they've played a little bit better at home. Obviously, they lost some of their guys early. Horns out for the year. But they got to win just January 25th with Bama here at home, and they've played better at home like you talked about and scored. I think it gets over. I thought that game the other day, I'm like, man, I might want to play this under. Well, I didn't play it, but it went way over with Arkansas. They're just playing no defense. This should get over the total, the team total. I just don't know about laying it. Auburn should cover this, but man, that's a lot on the road in the SEC.
It sure is. Yeah, it's a lot of points. It's a lot. I mean, they're adjusting to Georgia. When Georgia has the kind of game they had defensively against Arkansas, you got to make an adjustment, and they have. You're not getting a bargain with Auburn. That's why I think the team total's better. Eliminate the laying the 6. They certainly could cover that number, but the 83.5 team total, I think, can get there. And I like the 152 because I think Georgia's going to put up some points. And Auburn's a great defensive team. They are. But again, on the road, maybe there is a little drop in their defensive efficiency when they go on the road, Bruce Pearl's team. So if that's the case here, we could maybe still see this game go over the total. Tennessee, South Kakalaki. We've got Tennessee 7-point road favorites, 136.5. I hate to be repetitive, but this is another over for me here. And Tennessee's not necessarily a team I said coming into the year, I want to bet this team over the total a lot. But they're kind of changing and their stripes a little bit. They're playing with their pace numbers are way up from where they were last year. They're not like a speedy, like up and down the court type of team, run up and down, but they are definitely playing. They were a slow walk the ball up the floor team last year. They've picked it up, certainly from that standpoint, comparing last year to this year from a pace perspective. Their possession numbers have gone up. You're seeing them actually score lately, 78 against Florida, 90 against A&M. And at the same time, their defense, a couple games here, have been kind of not Tennessee-like defensively. They give up 26 to 60, 71 points to Florida at home. They give up 80 to A&M. A&M's not an offensive juggernaut. And the one thing you're going to get with South Carolina is you're going to get them running. In terms of tempo, I believe they're 42nd in the country. They do play fast. You're only dealing with 137 right now with this total. Yeah, 136.5, 137. I think it probably gets up and over that. Conor, anything for you with the Vols and the Cox?
Yeah. Early game, though. They've played to some overs lately, like you talked about here at home, South Carolina. But Tennessee is not a team I like to lay points on the road with. I just over the years, Vols, Rick Martin, this team, especially this time of year, maybe they're a little bit better, but I think you just stay away here because to win by 8 or 9 points on the road, I wouldn't like to do it. I just haven't been able to trust South Carolina, like you talked about. They haven't been able to score the ball too much, so it's difficult. I'd lean the home dog here at plus the 7.5, and I'd stay off the total at 136.
Yeah, I lean South Carolina plus 7. Here's the issue, though. Their two best home opponents in conference play. Florida, they lost by 8, didn't cover at home. And Auburn, they lost by 15, and they didn't cover at home. So this is a step up in class for them. They haven't always handled it well, and they've been terrible defensively against some of these good teams as well. They gave up 80 plus points to Auburn. They gave up 71 to a kind of a mediocre Florida offense. So, yeah, and that also makes me think we get over the total here, 137 here with this. I think it can get there. And Tennessee's not that under team. They were early in the year or certainly last year. So I think that they can get over that kind of number. Let's see what else we've got. Let's go to a really good game here, Conor, in the A10. Dayton and St. Louis. We've got St. Louis 4.5-point home favorites, 134 the total in this one. This should be interesting. Dayton, is a team that when you look at their season so far, the Dayton Flyers, it's been up and down, but I love them in that spot at VCU the other night. 82 to 52 beat down, revenge spot. They lost a gut wrencher at home to VCU earlier this year. I knew they'd be up for that game. They'd be keyed up for that game, and they were. But now can they sustain it going on the road again here? Second straight game on the road in a 4-day span against St. Louis. The Billikens are really starting to come on too. A real gritty overtime win against George Mason the other night. They've now won 4 straight. They've 3 out of the last 4 they've covered. They're playing some good basketball. They lost at Dayton 68-63 earlier this year. Revenge spot for the Billikens. I could understand why they're taking some money here. I'd lean to the Billikens a little bit, 4.5. Certainly does set up well for them. Home team playing with revenge. Dayton on the road for a second time in 4 games. A little bit of a tricky spot for the Flyers. Feels like, and you certainly think you're going to get a pretty good effort here from this Dayton team, from St. Louis rather, after losing at Dayton earlier this year. Again, these two teams are pretty close, pretty even, competitive, kind of like Dayton VCU. VCU won the first game. These two teams pretty even. Dayton came back and won the rematch. I kind of think that's the way this one goes. Dayton won the first game. St. Louis responds here today on their home floor. What do you think here, C-Mac, Dayton, St. Louis?
Yeah, that was the crazy game that Max had. He had George Mason, that OT, and St. Louis won the other day. This is difficult. I think St. Louis bounces back. It's just, do I want to lay 4.5 with them? Not really. I liked Dayton the other day as well, if you were listening to the show. But, man, they just to score 82, just kind of offense explosion, because that team can struggle to score at times, obviously, both these teams. So I know the total's low, but I'd be leery of playing the over here. I think this could stay under.
Agree with that. I would agree with that. Dayton's a good defensive. Both of these teams are, actually. Dayton for the year, 60 points per game allowed. St. Louis hasn't been as good defensively this year. There's no question. They're actually more of an offensive team at times this year. Like, their offense is definitely better than I've seen it in years past, but it's kind of gone at the expense of their defense. At home, they're averaging 80 points per game. So the total to me is, I think it's in a really good range. I don't really love over or under either way in this one, 132.5. But I kind of agree with you. Big game like this could stay under. James Madison taking on Hofstra here. Let's do a little Colonial Athletic Association, one of my favorite conferences. Hofstra, 8-point home favorites, 155 the total in this game. James Madison, I like backing this team on the road, C-Mac. They're very good on the road. They've been that way here in conference play. They just won at Northeastern. They won at William and although William and Mary's not saying much, but on the road as an underdog is usually where I want this team. They're not good as favorites. We've seen that. They had gone on an 0-6 slide as favorites, but as an underdog, they've been solid in that role. They lost at home against Hofstra, 87-80 back on January the 9th. It was a game where James Madison actually led at halftime. And then you look at it, it was close right down to the wire. And then Hofstra just got him in the last 2 minutes. It was a close game back and forth throughout. And then Hofstra just pulled away in the last couple minutes. Revenge spot for the Dukes. The Dukes are better on the road. The Dukes are better as an underdog instead of a favorite. And look, Hofstra to me, they've shown some warts lately. They've lost 2 in a row to Wilmington, one of the hottest teams in the conference. And then Towson, I thought they were actually in a decent bounce back spot, only laying 3 at home against Towson. And they end up losing that game by 10. So Speedy Claxton's Hofstra team's in a little bit of a slide right now. I think James Madison and the Dukes catching the points is worth a look. I would lean over. It's pretty high, though. That's the only concern. But certainly James Madison's been trending over 4 straight. Hofstra's gone over in 2 straight. I do think we get a high-scoring affair. We did get 167 points the last time these two teams met. I think it gets over the total, and I like the dog here, James Madison. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, James Madison got the revenge the other day against Northeastern. That was the game I had the over on. I think there's points. Even at 155, I agree with you here. I don't know how both these teams get up and down. James Madison, I mentioned the other day, 9-1, and went over again, 10-1 the last 11 to get over. Hofstra, I think, averages 83, something like that a game all year long. So I agree with you. Over. And I'd lean James Madison, if I had to. I just don't feel great. I like this Hofstra team, but they're starting to lay numbers I don't know if they deserve lately.
Yeah, I agree with that. James Madison, it's on my card. Already bet it, and the over as well in that game. All right, Texas Tech and West Virginia here, Big 12. Texas Tech, 4.5-point road favorites, 132 the total in this one. Definitely for me, this kind of feels like West Virginia's got to have it. West Virginia needs a marquee win. They need a resume bolster, a resume booster, whatever you want to call it. And this is going to be one of their better chances to get one here as they take on Texas Tech. A Texas Tech team that, look, they played terrific. There's nothing else to say. They've been magnificent. That Mark Adams deserves a hell of a lot of credit. But, man, does this feel like I don't like just knee-jerk saying, letdown spot, because I don't like to – I think those are overrated half the time, letdown spot. A lot of times the better team doesn't have letdown spots. When you're the better team, you win and you cover. And I do think Texas Tech is the better of these two teams. But if everybody that watched that game against Texas, you saw the atmosphere. They treated Chris Beard like he did, like he's like he just got out of prison for as a convicted felon. In that place, they're basically, just giving them the gears. You're chanting, and they basically have carpet and basically doormats going into the arena the other night with Chris Beard's face on it. You're stepping on it going into the arena. Like they really wanted that game, Texas Tech against Texas. They got it. They weren't happy that Chris Beard basically, jilted them is what he did. He jilted them for Texas, and Texas Tech, that game clearly meant something to them, meant something to those players. I think it meant something to Mark Adams too, because, I think there was a little bit of I think they're still friends at the end of the day because Mark Adams was on Beard's staff, obviously, before Beard left for Texas. But you can tell there was, some satisfaction for Mark Adams to beat his mentor, if you will, in that game. It was a very emotionally charged atmosphere, and I think the players felt the same way. So now you're coming off that, and you're going on the road here against a desperate West Virginia team. It really does feel like a slam dunk, home run type of home underdog spot here for West Virginia in this game. And I'll give West Virginia credit. They really had been struggling. 5 losses in a row. Is there a buy sign on them? Because look, at Baylor, they took them down to the wire, and they led actually a good portion of the game before falling short, losing 81-77. Maybe a buy sign for West Virginia. Again, their offense is spotty. Their defense hasn't been as good as we come to expect from Bob Huggins' teams. But when you're going to get 29 points, finally a great offensive game, too, out of Taz Sherman. He's had to do so much for this team this year. But if Taz Sherman can get you 29 points or close to it, it's going to make West Virginia a whole lot better. I would only look West Virginia here. I'm not a big spot type of guy, but, man, this one stands out like a sore thumb. How the hell is Texas Tech going to replicate the intensity, the focus, and the emotion of what they showed earlier this week against Texas in the return of Chris Beard? I think it'll be tough for them. What do you think here, Conor Mack? Texas Tech, West Virginia.
Yeah, this is the ultimate flat spot after that huge win. I mean, the place was rocking when Chris Beard showed up in Texas. You mentioned, I think this is interesting. Tech is so slow sometimes. When they played earlier, January 22nd, it was 78-65. This would get over. West Virginia's 10-1 to the over, like you talked about. The defense, where is Bob Huggins in this defense that he's always, took such great pride in. I thought that was a good game against Baylor, like kind of like a great effort. They have to win this game. I mean, they should be all out here. I wanted a little bit more than 4.5. I wanted 6.5, 7 to feel real good about West Virginia. But the way things are going with this defense, it scares me a little bit that this could be 70, I don't know, or 68-60 and stay under. But I could only look over at this total this low and how West Virginia's gone over.
Yeah, it could be a little bit tricky in that regard for the total here because it could go either way, but it seems rather low for West Virginia's defensive deficiencies at the time. We'll see if they can show up at that. And the total is getting bet up, by the way, in this game, so that's important to keep in mind. All right, next up, we've got Iowa State and Texas. Texas, 8.5 point home favorites, 122 the total in this game. What was shocking to me about Texas now, look, they're on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're off the loss against Texas Tech. They're looking to bounce back here in this game against Iowa State, but their defense was shockingly pretty bad, and that was one of the worst defensive performances I think Texas has had all year in that game against Texas Tech the other night, giving up 24-51 shooting, 77 points in that double-digit loss. So you got Texas looking to bounce back here, but Texas has been bad home favorites, lately, other than beating Oklahoma by 14 on January 11th. And West Virginia by 15 on New Year's Day. Lately, as home chalk, here's what they've done. Losing outright to Kansas State, winning by 5 against Oklahoma State, winning by a single point against Tennessee, blowing a lead and hanging on for dear life to win that game. I like Iowa State here. The one thing you get with the Cyclones is this team is, Otzelberger's done a nice job. They've kind of reeled it in after a tough start. You had a 9-point loss against Kansas earlier this week, but on the road, they won in overtime at Oklahoma State. A lot of their losses have been, for the most part, competitive. Remember, at Kansas, they lost by 1. They've had some bad games, too, like TCU losing at home was a really bad loss. Texas Tech pulled away late against them. So, you worry that maybe at the latter stages of the game, they can tend to get worn down. But when you play, for the most part, solid defense, and for the most part your defense is good enough to keep you in games. They've had some bad defensive games, but still overall for the year they're only allowing 60.9 points per game on the season and only giving up 41% shooting and 27 from 3. That's going to keep you in a lot of games. I just can't lay this many with Texas. I know they're in a bounce-back spot, but Iowa State's good enough to compete, good enough defensively to hang in there. Brockington makes some shots for them. They can hang right in this game. I like the Clones here. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, I wrote down this last night, at 8.5. I think this is a bit too many. This isn't a Texas team that wins by margin and covers. They just struggle. And you know where they've struggled the most, I talked about it with Max, is at home. They've had, they play better defense, obviously, and these games have been low scoring. And I think this could be today as well. This might not get over 121. On the road, they've gone over a little bit more, and they did just the last one out at Texas Tech. So, yeah, I lean under here and give me the 8.5 with Iowa State.
All right, under and Iowa State. All right, Louisville, Syracuse. Syracuse, 7-point home favorites, 146.5 the total in this game. What do we do here? Do we take Louisville or do we lay this many points with Syracuse? And believe me, that is not an easy decision either way going into this game. I will give Louisville credit. They, again, competed to the death against North Carolina, 90-83. They lost in overtime. Really a hard-fought game, but they fell short. Meanwhile, you got Syracuse starting to do what they do. They get, maybe a sign of a late season surge. That seems to be the MO for them. They stink it up. They're mediocre as fuck for most 3/4 of the season. Then February and March arrives, and all of a sudden Syracuse starts peaking. And watch them get into the tournament somehow, and they'll do what they usually do: give people fits in the NCAA tournament. That's been the track record lately for Syracuse. This team's just turned into a juggernaut to the over. I mean, in terms of how they can score, and their defense, the 2-3 zone defense just hasn't been as good lately. So you might see some points in this one, but do I trust Louisville to score enough? That's the question going into this game. I don't have a strong take on it, but I don't know if I'd want to back Louisville again. I mean, they left it all out there against North Carolina and only to fall short. And I don't trust teams that are mired in a bad season like Louisville, that have already seen the coach, dismissed, after they gut it out and they play that hard against a good team. A lot of times they just hit a wall and you get just a complete and utter clunker, and they lay an egg the next time out. So, yeah, to me it would be Syracuse or pass. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, this is one I didn't really like at all. I watched the Syracuse team. I'm not impressed at all. I know they got that good win at Wake Forest at home, and they just beat NC State, not a very good NC State Wolfpack team. Both games went over, and if shots drop, this game goes over just with, because they shoot so many threes. If they don't, and that zone defense isn't what it used to be. But if they don't, they've had some unders. These totals have gone up before that. They had what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 out of the last 6 before the 2 overs went under. So I'd be leery of the total here.
All right, good stuff. You know what? I'm going to do something different here. It's midway through the show. We'll go till about 11:30, 11:45 a.m. Eastern time. Usually we do. I know this is what Conor usually does with Max. Because I don't know if we're going to get to every game Conor likes, so I'm gonna toss it to Conor. One game that you right now have already circled. One game that you're very interested in as of right now for this card.
Well, you were right here. It was the next game right underneath, actually.
Wow. How about that?
I circled rotation number. Yeah. Davidson, 649, 650. George Washington. I like George Washington here, almost getting double digits, plus 9.5. Shout out to my guy Birdie. I saw him right when I jumped on Twitter this morning. I saw he had this on his card as well. I think this is a great spot for George Washington here. I like how they played all year long. Another thing I wrote on this game, I think we get over. Like, this is an automatic over, I think. I think there's lots of points scored. Davidson obviously can score, but to lay 10 with them on the road, I don't think so here. So I like the dog here, and I'd lean over this 139.5.
All right, there you go, the dog, and lean over the total there with George Washington and Davidson. Yeah, I agree with Davidson's one of those teams that, again, they don't play fast. They're like Furman, but they make up for it in just great offense. Yeah. 3-point shooting, very well executed, and they find a lot of their games go over just because they shoot the lights out, and they've done that recently. 81-76 against St. Bonaventure, 77-69 against LaSalle. Both of those games went over the total. George Washington, you look at them defensively, the last two, they've given up 87 and 80. So I'm with you there. I think definitely that game can go over that number. And George Washington's been competitive lately as well. So you look at them in that home dog spot, getting 9.5, the over. I totally agree with both. GW and the over both would be good ways to go in that one, in my opinion. George Mason and LaSalle. George Mason, 4.5, 5-point road favorites, 136.5 the total. I'm laying it here with George Mason. I do trust this team after a gut-wrenching loss to St. Louis to bounce back, and I just do not trust LaSalle all that much. It's obviously a LaSalle Explorers team that certainly has had their struggles this year. They're just 6-13 on the year. They're 4-7 against the spread at home, where George Mason's 4-2 ATS on the road. George Mason's got no problem going on the road, beating teams they should. You look at UMass in their last road game. They were 4-point road favorites. They won by 10. That's kind of what I see here in this game. I think, maybe it's close for a while. George Mason will gradually pull away and find a way probably to win this game by at least enough points to cover this number. They're laying 5. I think like a 7 to 10 point victory is probably what I see here. They could even win by doubles, but they are the better of these two teams. They're in a spot where they're off a loss, so they should have the focus required to do away with a team that's not as good as you. So, and Kim English, by the way, terrific coaching job this year at George Mason. It's proven to be one hell of a hire, the job that he's done. So George Mason for me in this one is road favorites. Don't bet a lot of road favorites, but I think there's a good spot, good situation, good number to do that with the George Mason Patriots here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I think it's a decent bounce back spot. I didn't have this written down at all. One thing, what are you going to get with LaSalle? They play better at home, like you talked about, and they can kind of hang in games from this 4 to 6, range. They lost by 6 to UMass, 8 to Richmond, 4 to St. Bonaventure at home. They're not very good. I don't blame you. So, yeah, if I had to, I'd lay it with George Mason here, but this is one I haven't played.
Good stuff. All right, next up as we continue along here, let's go to, let me see here. I'm going to mention it because I'm on Georgia Tech here, plus 2.5 against Clemson. I just don't trust Clemson as road favorites. One thing I've learned over the years is Clemson's a road favorite. You may want to stay away. I mean, they're only 2-5 straight up on the road this year as it is. So I just don't really trust. Now, they almost beat Duke on the road. That was their best road performance. They did win at NC State, but they've had some clunkers as well away from home, including the loss at Syracuse just recently. And Georgia Tech is just one of those teams where even though they've struggled the last 2 games, they seem to have that ability still at home to be surprise you every now and then and play some better basketball on their home floor. Like when they beat Florida State, they were home dogs. It's just that when you see this team as home dogs, they're often a team I'm looking to back. They did lose to Miami their last try as home dogs, but you look at Clemson, the key for them is, they're actually a very, very solid 3-point shooting team, Clemson. When you look at Georgia Tech's defense, they're only giving up 30% from the perimeter. So a lot of this Clemson offense is reliant upon making the perimeter shot. Georgia Tech's pretty good at taking away the perimeter shot. I think it's a decent matchup here for Georgia Tech, and it's just I've seen enough of Clemson over the years, and this coach, Brad Brownell, to know that, when they're a road favorite of this, you don't always want to jump in. So, and the matchup's good. Like I say, they're so 3-point reliant, and you're seeing Georgia Tech right now kind of maybe being able to take that away a little bit. So I like the Yellow Jackets a little bit here, plus 2.5 home dog. Connor, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I wanted a few more points with Georgia Tech here as the home dog. 2.5 was enough. Clemson's played decent on the road. Like you talked about, the shots got to drop. Yeah, they rely on that 3, and I think they're just a better home team. And they're starting to do Clemson things like they did last year. They're starting to play that way and fold a little bit. I don't know what to make of this team too much. There's Max. He likes Clemson. I don't like him here. If I were to bet it, I'd lean Georgia Tech, and I wouldn't even take the 2. I'd just take a money line, and I'd lean under. That defense, if it comes to play at home, he'll stay under.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. All right, next up, we've got, as we continue along here, a great slate of action here. I'm going to throw out Tulsa and Temple. Temple, 3.5, 4-point home favorites, 133.5 the total in this one. Temple, I mean, it's been a nice, solid season for them this year. They just continue to find ways to, cover point spreads for the most part. This is an incredible point spread run they're on. Tulsa, on the other hand, they're going in the wrong direction. 1-8 straight up their last 9 games. 10-point loss at Wichita. Other than blowing out South Florida, they get crushed by Tulane. They lose to Memphis, crushed at Cincinnati. Really ugly on the road. I mean, the last 3 road games, lose by 10 at Wichita, by 34 at Tulane, and by 21 at Cincinnati. So this team's had a lot of problems. Temple, it is a revenge spot for Tulsa. Temple beat them in Tulsa 69-64 earlier this year. But when you see these point spread streakers right now, Connor Mack, I don't go against it. This is one spot where I'm not interested in the team that's in revenge. Tulsa's struggling. Tulsa is just in a bad way right now. Temple is rolling. Temple laying the points. I'm going against the revenge spot here. I think just Temple's the flat-out better team, and Tulsa's just been obliterated repeatedly on the road lately, so I don't trust them. I like Temple here as short home favorites. What do you think?
Yeah, this Tulsa team has really folded defensively at times, especially on the road like you're talking about. I lean Temple too. I've been backing them as of late. I don't know, with that Tulsa defense, they scared me a little bit, because to me, I think you could lay it here with Temple. And I only look under. This Temple team's slow. They rebound. I think they're like 28th in the country in blocks. I said this the other day when we were on the show because it was one of my bets. I'd lean Temple and lean under here.
There we go. Temple and under for Conor in this one. All right, let's do a little Colonial again. I really like Colonial basketball, so I apologize if we're talking about this conference in particular too much, but I've done well in this conference. So Towson and Northeastern, we've got Towson 5-point road favorites, 133.5 the total in this game. I like Towson here. I apologize in advance to a guy that might be joining us on Saturdays in the near future on this show, Matt Janning. He played at Northeastern. He might be a special guest with us later this season. But sorry, Matt, your team sucks. All right, right now your alma mater, they're terrible. They're absolutely awful. You know, they can't find ways to win games at this point in time. It's been a rough season for the Huskies. I'm not used to seeing them be this bad, to be quite honest with you, because Bill Cohen's an outstanding basketball coach. But it's been an absolutely rough season for his team. I mean, defensively, they've fallen apart. They've not been anything like we've seen Northeastern in the defensive end of the basketball court in past seasons. They're having their issues. Offensively, they've obviously struggled to put the ball in the hoop at times. They lose again to James Madison straight up in ATS. They're on a 0-10 straight up slide, and they've covered just once in that time. Towson playing some good basketball, 3 straight wins going into this game. Their only loss was in overtime against Wilmington, one of the top teams in the conference. Towson already won the first meeting between these two teams, 70-67 at home on January 9th. These teams played twice last year. Towson won at home against Northeastern in the meeting that was in Towson last year, 68-57. Towson won by 11 in this game. The money's coming in on Northeastern, so people are obviously seeing value on Northeastern because they've been obviously so bad and they've been so devalued. But if you're going to ask me to bet a team that's lost 10 in a row and they failed to cover in 8 or 9 in a row, I'm not doing it. So I'm on the Towson Tigers here, -5 on the road. What do you think?
I'd lean that way. It's not enough. 5's not enough. I wrote this down last night. You know, I looked at this Northeastern game a lot, and I'm like, the way they're playing, and they have not been good at home. They've almost done better a few games playing on the road in the last month or month and a half. Yeah, like I wanted 9 points or 10 to even think about playing Northeastern. This was not enough. So I'd lean Towson. I didn't bet it, and nothing on this total.
All right, yeah, good stuff. But yeah, it's tough to. And Towson 10-1 against the spread on the road this year. Road warriors they've been. So keep that in mind as well.
They've been great all year.
Right. Yeah, they definitely have been, no question. Let's go to Michigan and Purdue. We've got Purdue 9.5-point home favorites, 145 being the total here in this game. Great matchup here in the Big Ten, and it's a great matchup now because finally, we're seeing over the last at least a couple of weeks that Michigan is starting to play at least a little bit more, a little bit more like we expected Michigan to be coming into the year. They've won 4 of their last 5. Now, granted, the schedule, not great. Maryland, Indiana. Indiana was their best win by far, 80-62 during this recent surge. And then the other wins were Northwestern and Nebraska, and they got creamed at Michigan State, 83-67. When you look at this matchup here with these two teams, Purdue, very good offensively. We know that. And we're going to see if they can keep that rolling. By the way, Michigan last year beat Purdue in the only meeting between these teams, 70 to 53 here at Purdue. So it was a very rough game for Purdue in that stretch. But no, I was impressed with Purdue because against Minnesota, because they're coming off that game against Ohio State, where again their defense had that lapse in the second half with a big lead. They let Ohio State back into the game, and Jaden Ivey had to bail out the Boilers with a buzzer beater to get past and survive Ohio State in that game. But their defense tightened up when they had to against Minnesota. They ended up winning 88-73. For me, Connor, this is just Purdue team total. I mean, these team totals, I was on that against Minnesota. The team total here is 74.5 right now for Purdue in this game. That, to me, is the way I'm going to go. I mean, to me, Purdue, we can usually count on this team, especially on their home floor, to put up at least 75 points. You know, you look at 88 against Minnesota, 81 against Ohio State, 83 against Iowa, 80 against Northwestern. The other road home games, 92 against Nebraska. There's been one game since the start of the new year they've scored less than 75 points, Wisconsin, 69, and that was a very atypical shooting night, 23 of 56 for Purdue from the floor in that game. So, you know, the Purdue team totals are hard to ignore right now, especially now. I know Michigan defensively is capable, but boy, I don't see them keeping Purdue under 75 points. That's all they need. By the way, 74.5 is the team total. And the last time we've seen Michigan on the road against a quality team, they gave up 83 points against Michigan State. They actually gave up 75 in a road loss at Rutgers earlier this year, and also 85 in a road loss at Central Florida earlier this year. So they gave up 75 at Rutgers, 85 at UCF. Purdue by far is going to be the most difficult, diverse, versatile, balanced offensive team Michigan's played in some time. So to me, that team total 74.5 stands out like a sore thumb that it's just too low. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, Purdue's just let teams back in it, you know, all year long. I get why they think they'll be.
That's the great thing, Connor, about betting their team total. You don't have
to worry about it.
Defense and letting the team back into the game if they have a big lead. It's better to the team total, I think, than laying the points.
I agree, because I'd be on the other side if I had to, and I have not been impressed with Michigan on the road, at least. I know they've played a bit better, but I think they have the talent, and just under, you know, you're almost getting 10 here. I think that'd be the side. I don't know if we get over. I think we do for the most part. Purdue, the last 10, 8-2 to the over, but this one could be closer. I don't blame you for the team total. I haven't played it, but I like it.
All right, there we go. All right, Notre Dame and NC State here. ACC, we've got NC State 1-point home favorites, 143.5 the total in this one. Notre Dame got me the other night against Miami. Now, Miami's been a team I've backed a lot, so you know I knew I was going to lose with them eventually. I didn't think Notre Dame was going to be that team, though. Very nice road win for Mike Bray's team. Let's give Mike Bray credit. This is a hell of a coaching job. This team early in the year looked awful, terrible. And since the beginning of the year, they've been very good. They're 8-2, you know, and since the start of the new year. The only losses were at Virginia Tech by 6, and they had a double-digit loss to Duke. And, you know, there's nothing shameful about that. Other than that, they've taken care of business. They've been very good. They're playing NC State here on the road in this one. Notre Dame won the first meeting just recently, 73-65 at home. It is a revenge spot here for NC State, but NC State's kind of gone downhill. 1-5 straight up in ATS last 6. Only win was against Virginia. Tough game. It's a pass for me. Notre Dame to me is better right now. I think they can win this game. Revenge spot's kind of backing me off, but I still think here when you look at it, Notre Dame is just playing with great confidence. Their defense has gotten better, starting to actually shoot the ball. We're even seeing Prentice Hub finally get going, and that guy's been massively disappointing much of his Notre Dame career. He's played better lately. So when I look at it here, I still think Notre Dame's the better team. I would lean them. I don't know if I'll bet it, but because of NC State at home playing with revenge, and they're kind of desperate for a win, but I still think Notre Dame's better than them, and I could only back the Fighting Irish here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, early on, I thought NC State, there's some good spots. I don't know about here, and this would be another good win Notre Dame needs, you know. for their resume here. That Duke loss was horrible, and they bounced back. I thought they'd play well at that 4.5, and they shot it well. They went to Miami and beat them. They played well on the road all year, Notre Dame. So I agree with you. If I were to play this one, I'd be on Notre Dame, and I'd lean over.
All right. Yeah, definitely.
Even though Notre Dame's been more of an under team and played better defense as of late.
Yeah, the total's tough. Notre Dame kind of correlates with under. NC State's going to try to press you. That's normally what they do, and their defense is kind of not great. So it's probably one of those games where if you like NC State, you like the over. If you like Notre Dame, maybe you play it under the total. Ole Miss and Florida. Florida 8.5-point home favorites, 131 the total. Florida laying this many points. Sorry. I'm not interested, and I'm always interested. Now, I didn't do this with Missouri, and I was ticked because I know Missouri's been more competitive lately, and I didn't take them getting the points against Florida. Remember that weird start earlier this week, that weird early afternoon game they played, Missouri and Florida, and Missouri covered that game and nearly won that game outright. It was Florida needing a basket in the dying seconds to survive with the victory in that game. I ain't laying points with Florida. They're just not good enough, I think, consistently to trust them in this price range. Kermit Davis usually has his team, for the most part, well prepared. They've had some bad games at times as well, but I'm telling you what, Ole Miss plus the points for me. This is just, I'm going to dare Florida to cover a number like this, and I don't think they're always capable. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I don't blame you for taking Ole Miss. I like them a little bit better at home. They played better a little bit lately. There's no way, I can back Florida as my white team. Someone else can do it. They can put their money on that. I'd rather not here. It's too many.
I don't blame you at all. All right, let's go to another Conor Mack game. Is there anything on this board that stood out to you when you looked at it?
Yeah, hold on one sec. Keep rolling. I'll get to one.
All right, we'll do that.
I wrote a few down here.
Game. Yeah, think about what you're liking here. One of the games you like, and we'll get back to you right after this next one here. This next one is going to be as we continue along here. Wilmington and Bill and his bitch head to head. Wilmington against William and Mary. We've got Wilmington 5.5-point road favorites, 138.5 the total. So the key question you have to ask yourself. Now we know Wilmington was 11 or 12 straight ATS snapped the other night. In the game against Elon. They ended up losing that game straight up. Do you jump back on Wilmington one more time, or do you just totally get off the train now that they finally didn't cover their last game? I always say I'm never out until I lose two, as in two in a row. That's always the golden rule for me. So I am going to be back on Wilmington here. Off a loss, should have them maybe a little bit refocused here, taking on obviously a pretty porous William and Mary team. Now, William and Mary's been a little bit better against the number, because they've been getting so many points, at the beginning of conference play. And they actually have been a better point spread team. But they get blown out at home by Charleston, 84-61 in their last game. And even though they've been covering some numbers, Connor, they did win at Drexel. They did win at home against Elon. But they're still losing by 7 at Elon. They lost to Charleston. They lost by 10 at Delaware. They lost by 22 against Towson in overtime against James. There's been some games where they've hung around, but I think in this spot here against Wilmington, Wilmington's going to find a way to bounce back, get the job done. You look at on the road, Wilmington's been pretty solid for the most part, 2 ATS. So, like I say, I'm not out until I lose 2 in a row, and that's the way I feel about Wilmington. Finally had the streak snap. If they lose, this game against William and Mary and they don't cover, then we're off for good. But like I say, I'm not out usually until I lose 2, and I've been riding a team like NC Wilmington several games in a row. So let's see if they can bounce back. I'm going to take them again one more time here. Wilmington laying the points on the road here. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, William and Mary and me just aren't on the same page. I think I'm 2-2 with them. But the other day, that was, I thought, the best spot for them, catching 8 with Charleston. They had gone there 6 straight times and hadn't covered. And they just got blown out in the second half. They kind of went back to the basketball early on in the year. But they played a lot better. They've had that bad loss with Towson, but in the middle, they're covering again. I'm big with Wilmington. This is a difficult one here. I'm just going to stay off. I swear, if Wilmington wins by 3, I go nuts here in this game because I pulled my hair out with, as you say, Bill and his bitch.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love saying that. And by the way, look who is here from his Saturday morning slumber in the house on the Net Profit Show. Maxwell Smart joining us. We'll get to a bunch of Max's plays now that he's with us. I'm going to throw out a couple of added board plays at him right now, and I've got two that I'm on. I'm riding the hottest over team in added board action right now, and that's Vermont against UMass Lowell. That team just is going over the total every single game. Vermont team totals, Vermont full game overs are just cashing left and right. I get it. Lowell's a bad offensive team. They play a lot of unders. I get it. But Vermont can maybe pull them into a little bit. And it's only 135. I like that. And Max, are we riding the Mount again? Mount St. Mary's, one of the hottest point spread teams. A good NEC conference game today against Bryant. I'm looking forward to that. Those are the two teams that faced off in the conference tournament championship game last year. What do you think, Maxwell, about those two? He's muted. Max, can't hear you.
My mic is muted. I started off Saturday on a fucking roll. I'm happy to be here with you guys. I'm happy to be here with the freaking chat. Let's get those chicken tenders in, honey. Let's fuck with our eyes open. And it's Saturday. We got Duke in North Carolina. For all you mainstream guys that have been watching the mid-majors like Ian and I, this is time for you to sit back, get your popcorn ready, get a bourbon and ice, and fucking sip that
Duke,
shit.
North Carolina, Maxwell's like 80th on my list of games I'm most excited about today.
Oh, Ian, that's why I say that you and I appreciate the mid-major, but I know there's a lot of guys in our chat that love the big matchups, and you know what? I get excited for them on a day like today because you have gold from 12 o'clock till 10 o'clock Eastern all day. It's going to be awesome.
What did you think, Connor, of those two, Vermont, UMass Lowell, Bryant, Mount St. Mary's, because those are two of the added board games. I'll tell you that. I bet both. Vermont over 135.5 with UMass Lowell. This team's just, the overstreak is insane. And Mount St. Mary, look, you're not getting the best of the number anymore, but people are on to Mount St. Mary's being this point spread juggernaut lately. They just did it again against Merrimack in their last game. They're playing Bryant here. They seem to give Bryant trouble because I actually took Bryant in the first meeting during the regular season, revenge for the conference tournament loss, and Mount St. Mary's still got the cover just barely in that game. And now Mount St. Mary's is in revenge, and they've been on this point spread streak. So I understand people liking the Mount there.
Listen, Ian, with the Mount, I think that the biggest deal is Dan Engelstead finally is getting the best out of this roster. Jalen Benjamin is the star guard that we anticipated at the beginning of the season. And when you're hot like this, just like Wilmington was, just like Boise was, and when they're flying under the radar like this, you have to keep on backing them. I was lucky enough to get them at 2 on the opener last night. I think that at 4.5 is still good. And without Peter Kiss in the lineup, this Bryant team is lacking the go-to game changer.
Yep, no doubt. He's still suspended, Peter Kiss. Obviously, a key component to that Bryant offense that makes it so explosive, so dynamic, and definitely going to be missed a lot more than, say, playing St. Francis, PA the other night. You're going to feel that absence a lot more today, taking on a better basketball team. We got C-Mac back in the house with us. I forgot where we finished the William and Mary game. All right, Max, let's go to one of your games here that you like.
Yeah, listen, I think that we've seen a line movement in this Campbell USC Upstate game, and I'm saying, like, does anybody ever learn? This USC Upstate team is not a joke. This team knows how to play. Dalvin White, Jordan Gainey, Bryce Mozone. Those guys are going to fuck with their eyes open today, Ian. They are going to fuck with their eyes open, Connor. All right? And I see that you got some internet issues, so let's freaking call those sons of bitches and tell them to fix that shit for my guy. Yeah. But I'll tell you, I'm on USC Upstate +4. I like it. It's fucking with your eyes open 101.
There's all these teams like Mount St. Mary's. You mentioned Upstate. I've been New Orleans. Look out for them. There's another team that's been putting money in pockets lately for people. And I was on them the other night again. I mean, watch out for these teams because I'm telling you what, you could really ride teams, especially in the added board. These teams in the NEC and in the America East. All of these Southland, SWAC, MEAC. Go on down the list of all these added board conferences. You can find these teams that get on point spread streaks and ride them for like 4 weeks straight because odds makers just don't adjust quickly enough. They just do not.
So God bless them for that. God bless them for that.
I like Campbell, but the move, I just don't know if I agree with it, that it's to go to 4. That's why, yeah, I like Upstate as well.
You could make Campbell one-dimensional. That's the biggest thing with them this year. At least last year they were able to hit some threes. This year, very inconsistent. If you can keep them out of the lane, you keep them off the scoreboard.
No doubt. All right, Max, let's go to another look for you. What else is on the smorgasbord today?
Yeah, listen, I'm exclusively on the added board. I do not have a bet on the main board, including on my UConn Huskies, and I'm not advising anybody to do that. I did get Liberty at 6 last night against Eastern Kentucky. I do think that right now their defense and losing like they did to Jacksonville State at home, ending that 59-game winning streak, is something that they are angry about. You hear it from the coaching staff, you hear it from the players in interviews, and I think that Eastern Kentucky is going to get an ass whooping, and their team total under also has value.
Go. Good stuff. Let's go to one of the bigger games now on the added board. We got the mainstream softies out there. You know, we got to take care of you too. Baylor and Kansas. We've got Kansas 2.5-point home favorites in this one. The total 144.5 across the board. Really interesting matchup here with these two. Kansas has obviously they've really been all over the map this year. We know that just recently at home against Kentucky, that was pretty rough for them, pretty ugly, 80-62 loss. They bounced back at Iowa State, and very impressive because Kansas in that game was shorthanded. Obviously, Ochai Agbaji, not having him was significant, and they overcame that and still had a very solid victory against Iowa State on the road. Now they'll play for the first time, you know, at Fog Allen since that was a debacle against Kentucky. They were never in that game. They were blown out in the first half. And they really never recovered from that following. So we'll see if they can play better than that and atone for that here against the Baylor Bears. Kansas did beat Baylor last year at Fog Allen, 71-58. Baylor won at home, so they split the season series. Kansas has actually covered 3 in a row here against Baylor going into this one. Baylor, to me, defensively has not been the same this year quite. We think about how good they've been at the defensive end. Not the last 2 games. You know, they barely survived West Virginia, and West Virginia had one of their rare great shooting nights in recent memory. And Alabama just ripped them apart, 87 points, and shot, 29 of 49 from the field. So Baylor slipped a little bit with their defensive efficiency, and it's certainly not been as good the last couple of games here. It kind of feels like Kansas, from a spot perspective, things line up for them. Will they have Agbaji back is significant. You're going to need him here a lot more against Baylor than, say, against Iowa State earlier this week. But I don't know. I think Baylor's better than Kansas, but at the same time, they've slipped defensively. You've got Kansas playing at home for the first time off that just embarrassment, against Kentucky. I could see Kansas really bringing it today. So that has me passing on the game. It's a fascinating game, good watch, but tough one to bet. What do you think, Conor?
You think Kansas, traditionally, this is where they bounce back, but I'm just telling you right now, I know they're at home and everything, but I do not want to lay it with them. Even the 2.5 here. Initially, I thought this total, that's come down, but maybe it's come down too much. Kansas at home's played to the over. Baylor's been over. So if this gets down even a little more, I might hit this over. Baylor's struggling a little bit, but so I have nothing on the side. Max?
Yeah,
Max, I know you're not a main board guy, but let's get your thoughts here. Baylor and Kansas.
I think that with Baylor's injuries, it's just a big letdown for them. I think that they got to really clamp down defensively, take advantage of this Kansas defense that is nothing on the level of last year's team, and they got to shut down McCormick. I think Agbaji is going to play. I think he's going to come back. I think he's going to be effective. If you can limit him to under 25, I do think that you can find a way to freaking get some freaking payback or some freaking love from the ladies of the night on this game.
They did show some guts, Kansas, winning at Iowa State earlier this week, considering they were without Agbaji in that game. And he apparently has been removed from protocol. So sure looks like he's on track to play here in this one. I believe it's an afternoon game. Yeah, 4 p.m. Eastern. So it looks like he is on track to play here in this one. All right, let's go to another of Max's looks on the added board. Max, what else have you got?
Yeah, listen, I think that when we look at McNeese State versus Northwestern State, this is definitely a spot where I think McNeese can finally get on the winners into the winner's circle. Definitely have to be able to move the ball well, get Brandon Medley Bacon involved down low, and do a good job of protecting the rim. I think that with Northwestern State, they are talented with Kendall Coleman and Connor Teason. I just don't think that on the road after getting a very nice and their first road win of the year against HBU, they're going to be able to build off that. This number is short, and I'm fading the team that has made me a lot of money fading them. So let's go with McNeese.
There you go. All right, McNeese State in that one. All right, good stuff. All right, let's go to, as we go back to the main board here, let's do Michigan State taking on Rutgers. We've got Michigan State 2-point road favorites, 133.5 the total in this game. Should be, this is I just don't bet against Rutgers at home. It's just, this team is just like a different animal on their home floor. 10-2 now at home this year, Rutgers. Now the last home win was a rare home loss for them against Maryland, 68-60. I don't like this team very much on the road at all, but at home it's been a different story. Michigan State, they're coming off an escape at Maryland. They're playing on the road for a second straight time this week. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see if they can play a little. They're going to have to play better than that probably to get the job done here in this one. When you look at this Michigan State team, they've had some good performances. They've had some weak ones. The home loss to Northwestern wasn't very good. Since then, though, they did beat Michigan. They did beat Wisconsin, 2 pretty good wins. Didn't play great against Maryland, but found a way. It's just when you see Rutgers, we know on their best day at home, they're capable of beating anybody. They already have a win against Iowa at home. They already have a win against Michigan at home. They already have a win against Purdue at home this year. So it's just one of those games and they're a slight home underdog here. You know me, I like Rutgers at home. I've backed them at home a lot the last couple of years. It's always going to come down to, in terms of Baker and Harper, they're going to have to play well for Rutgers. Especially offensively, which isn't always the case for them. They can be a little bit inconsistent at the offensive end, but for me, this is Rutgers or pass, especially as home dogs. I'm not interested in going against the Scarlet Knights when they're at home and catching points. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, this is if you watch the show, Max knows this is the only time I want Rutgers. I wish it was they're catching a few more than this. Michigan State's more talented; they can go in there and win. But Ron Harper Jr. and all these guys, they play their best basketball at home. This team's just horrible on the road. So I'd lean that way. I haven't bet it, but I'd lean with Rutgers.
All right, Max, what do you think here?
Yeah, listen, I think that with Rutgers, you do have multiple ball handlers on the floor at all times, so that really does benefit them against a team like Michigan State. However, you get a good outlier game from a guy like Gabe Brown, and that could be the difference in this situation. I got a freaking play from Dabby Cab, and I believe that he was on Michigan State first half, and I tailed him on that. So I'm pretty much just rocking out with some expert opinions the other way, and I'm going to go with Michigan State minus the half point first half.
All right.
Well, yeah, here's the thing, real quick, G. Martinez says, Rutgers just should be catching more. But the books are smart. This is where they play their best basketball, so the line, they put it right there, right at 2 or 3, it opened at 3. So, yeah, they should be catching more here, though.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see. It feels like, they could be catching a few more points. Michigan State, they've had some, like I said, they've had some quality wins too lately, and it's going to be a question of can they go into Rutgers, usually a tough place to play, and find a way to get the win. All right, Max, you're next up. Another game you like.
Yeah, listen, I think that when we go down the added board and we look at a team that has some scoring potential, I got to go and look at Southern. And Southern versus Alabama A&M is definitely a spot that I'm looking at Southern. I haven't got on the team total yet, but it is a spot that I'm looking at right now. When we're talking about Southern, we're talking about an experienced roster laden with D1 transfers. And I do think that when you get that kind of experience at home, this is when you're going to be able to expect their best basketball. And against an Alabama A&M team that just really doesn't go fast. And even with Jalen Johnson and Garrett Hicks, it just isn't enough on a nightly basis. A team total of 71.5, guys, is a goddamn freaking, it's charity. So I'll be all over that as soon as we're off the show. And I think Southern fucks with their eyes open big time today and probably covers that number.
Yeah, Tony, thank you so much. $10 dono. We appreciate that.
Shout out to my guy,
Amazing.
Tony.
Thank you we appreciate the generosity and you enjoying the show. 262 live viewers. Let's hit that like button. Come on, it's mandatory. Hit it. Mando, as we say on the NBA Pub Up show. Let's get that like count up there. Hit that like button. We appreciate that. Helps us out a great deal for sure. Conor, I was going to throw it to you. One of the games that you had circled. Do you have another one?
Yeah. I had circled though. This is a main board. I do have some added board ones, but I'm sure we'll touch them with Max, and he's already touched on a few of them. I'm going with Miami against Virginia here. I like the 4, but what I like more is this total. I'm going under. I mean, I think this is too high here at 127. I think they're going off Miami. At times can light it up and score, but I think this is just a dogfight, classic Virginia game. This total's too high, so I like the under 127. And sidewise, I lean Miami a little bit if you can get 4.
With you 100% there. After the loss to Notre Dame, now trying to bounce back on that. They've been a great road team. You know, you look at them on the road. Solid. They beat Duke, Florida State, lose by 1, but cover 6.5-point dogs. Win at Virginia Tech, win at Georgia Tech by 11. This team's been absolutely terrific playing on the road this year. And I think they're capable of it here as well. And they've actually covered 3 in a row in the series history against Virginia recently. And again, when you're talking about Virginia laying points at home, okay, the last 2 against Boston College and Louisville, they won by double digits. They were good as home favorites, but Boston College stinks. Louisville's had a pathetic season, very disappointing. You also look at some of these other games. They beat Virginia Tech at home by just a bucket. They lose to Wake Forest at home. And their offense is still, it's getting better. Virginia, but it's still not always trustworthy in terms of being able to lay points as favorites. I still like this Miami team. They're versatile. I like Cameron McGusty a lot, Isaiah Wong, Charlie Moore, Jordan Miller. I mean, they're very, very, they've got a bunch of different guys that can hurt you on a nightly basis. I think they're in a good situation here. I think maybe they needed a slap in the face to wake them up a little bit. Maybe the loss to Notre Dame at home was that. So, yeah, I'm with you on the side for sure. I like Miami +4. Good bounce back spot. Still have my doubts about UVA consistently when laying points. Max, what did you think of that game, Miami UVA?
Yeah, ring-a-ding-ding. It's like a goddamn Twinkie. I think that just as tasty as a Twinkie is Miami +4. So I am in complete agreement.
Yeah, there we go. Good spot, good road team, good ATS team on the road. No doubt about that. Good find there for Conor. All right, let's go to USC and Arizona now. Pac-12 matchup here. Arizona 11-point home favorites, 150 the total. So I don't know if people realize. I know Arizona under Tommy Lloyd this year, they played extremely fast from a tempo standpoint, but it hasn't necessarily translated into overs, especially of late. They've actually gone under the total. Their offense is, I think, kind of, I don't want to say regressed, but, you know, now that they're playing some better team, let's be honest, when they were putting up 80s and 90s earlier this year, they were doing it in non-conference. They were doing it against, Washington, teams like that, Cal, weaker teams in the Pac-12. Lately, the 2 UCLA games, even their last game against Arizona State last weekend, they didn't really have that. That offense really didn't get going for Arizona. And it's always the key for them when they don't score in transition, they don't get those easy run-out opportunities. They don't always score quite as easily. So we'll see how that goes here against USC here in this game. It's a great matchup. I'm looking forward to it. I've jumped off the Arizona over train a long time ago, and yet every game I see with Arizona, guys, the total's being bet up. This opened 146. It's now up to 150 here in this game. It kind of feels like that's a lot to be laying with Arizona. They got their revenge win against UCLA a couple nights ago. I guess I'd lean a little to USC here, getting 11 in this game, but it's just a small lean for me. I don't know if I'll actually pull the trigger on it. Conor, what did you think here, this Pac-12 showdown, Trojans and Wildcats?
I didn't have much in this one, as much as I like that in my game. I can't trust this USC team. I don't think they're very good. They don't make shots. They don't make free throws. But maybe this is too many. Arizona, one thing they've been great is on their home court. And a big win against UCLA, but I need more here. I would need 14 points to even think about taking SC.
The key for Arizona moving forward is, look, I like Coloco in the low post. You saw Azuolas Tubelis coming back from injury the last game and the difference he made. Obviously, Benedict Mathurin, shout out to him, fellow Canadian. Max and I appreciate him. No doubt about that. He's terrific. Dallin Terry, he plays very well most of the time. If they can get Kirk Risa to play solid and steady at the point guard spot like he did the other night against UCLA, that's not always the case with Arizona. That's sometimes the guy that can sometimes things go south for them. It's because Kirk Risa doesn't play well. He played well the other night against UCLA. If they get him on board playing well, I find it takes them to another level. So that's going to be the key for Arizona, I think, moving forward. But Tommy Lloyd's already still in my discussion for Coach of the Year, what he's done with that team. Great hire. Mark Few tree of coaches. You knew it was going to be a good hire when he's being coached under Mark Few all these years. Great job for Arizona, finding him, bringing him to Tucson. Max, did you have any opinions here? USC Zona.
Yeah, listen, I think that with Arizona, this is another opportunity to see their big man go to work with Omar Ballo now in the fold and producing. I think that this is just a triple-headed monster that is going to be difficult for even USC size to contain for 40 minutes. It's definitely a spot where I think there's team total value with Arizona.
All right, team total for Arizona. And by the way, I was on that the other night against UCLA. Man, just fell short. Tough one. And it looked like it was on pace at halftime, but things kind of slowed down a little bit in the second half. Northern Iowa and Drake. Here's a good one in the Missouri Valley. We've got Drake here as home favorites in this one, 4.5, 144 the total in this game. I like the over here. 5 straight overs for Drake. Northern Iowa has been surprisingly higher scoring, probably not as good defensively either this year. I think it gets over the total. The first matchup did. Drake winning at Northern Iowa, 82-74. I think the Dogs actually, again, I like these spots where you've got Northern Iowa losing a tough one at home to Drake just a few weeks ago in overtime. 2 pretty good teams, fairly close. And now you've got Northern Iowa, road dog in revenge for a close loss. See, those are the revenge spots I like when it's a close loss. When you get your ass beat by like 10 or 20 in the first meeting, I don't look at that revenge spot. No, you got your ass beat. You're probably not nowhere close to as good. You're probably not going to win the rematch. This is different. This was a back and forth game the first meeting. I think Northern Iowa was the side here getting 4.5. It's not easy to win at Drake, but I think Northern Iowa as a road dog after the OT loss to Drake is going to give them a game, have a chance to win outright. I think it'll be a close game. 1 or 2 possessions either way. So there's a lot of value getting 4.5 with the Panthers in this spot. And I like the over as well. Both teams trending that way. Conor, what do you think? You're a great one in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, so this is one of the games I had circled here. So to talk about, if you were going to talk about it, Ian, I agree with you. I think this is revenge here for Northern Iowa. Max had them the other day. They got it done against me with Bradley. I'll take them here. They got their ass kicked, but I think this team's good. They played well on the road all year long. I know Drake's playing a little bit better. They've covered after struggling early on in the year. They couldn't cover a number at all. Drake couldn't. But I like Northern Iowa. I agree. And if I had, I'd lean the total over, but I didn't make a bet there. I just took the 4.5.
I definitely think Drake's terrific, by the way, and they're coming off 2 terrific wins. I mean, the Loyola Chicago win, we know how good that was. Drew Valentine, I think, has done a solid job there. It's not easy to follow Porter Moser, at that program, but I think he's done a solid job. He's just a young coach. It's good to see young coaches getting a chance like that. I still remember him playing for frickin' Michigan State, just like, 6 or 7 years, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and he's coaching now, the Loyola Chicago program. But
real quick, shout out to Trey Day, my guy. We got to mention his dono. We forgot to mention, he said, take the points in the Big 12 today. Shout out to Trey Day for the $4.99 dono.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Trey. Thank you very much. I think I like the way Drake's played. Drake just and no letdown either. They beat down Indiana State the other day, Drake. Very impressive. It's like I say, I'm a little bit leery of going against them, but I think it makes sense. And I think Northern Iowa comes to play big time in this one after the OT loss at home against Drake just a couple of weeks ago. What do you like here in this one, Max?
Yeah, listen, I think that if Northern Iowa can D up on this Drake team, who's been pretty freaking impressive offensively, I think that they have a chance. If they can't, then they could be getting a bowl of cock soup later on.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of why I feel like I can't go 0-2 with these two bets because likely if Drake wins and covers, it goes over the total. So that's why, and the total's gone up a little bit, 142 to 144 here in this one. How about Penn State, Wisconsin? Then we'll get another game from Max. Wisconsin, 8.5-point home favorites, 130 the total in this one. Obviously, Wisconsin's trying to bounce back here from a loss earlier this week against Illinois. But like I say, now when you lose to Illinois, it's not a bad loss at all because Illinois is finally healthy, finally got all their pieces back, and you're seeing what they're capable of. So now they're back home. But are they good enough to win by margin? I mean, all of a sudden, Wisconsin hasn't covered in 4 straight games. Penn State, all they do is it seems like they, at times on the road, they can hang around like they did at Ohio State. They also had some ugly ones at Iowa, at Indiana. They lost by double digits both times on the road. They've been a little bit all over the place in terms of their results. I do kind of feel it's a good bounce back spot for Wisconsin, but they're on an 0-4 ATS slide. They're laying a solid number, a healthy number here, 8.5 in this one. And you look at when these two teams met last year, Wisconsin did beat Penn State 72-56 at home. So I was looking Penn State initially, but just too up and down on the road with their recent performances. And you would figure you get the best of Wisconsin here after the Illinois game. But I just don't want to lay this many. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, this was a pass for me. I've liked Penn State in certain situations. I just wanted more. This seems like a bounce back game for Wisconsin here at home. So I had no bet on it.
How important is Johnny Davis? Seems like so many games Johnny Davis doesn't play well. Wisconsin doesn't play well. What do you think here, Max?
Yeah, this is a pass for me, guys.
Yeah, nothing. It's a tricky one. There's no doubt. All right, let's go to Max here. Max on the added board. What special concoction have you got for us now?
Well, listen, I think that I'm going to go back to a team that's been making me money and has been making my people money. I think that when you look at Maryland Eastern Shore, what have they done? Cover double-digit dog numbers. They've been winning goddamn games, let alone covering those double-digit dogs. Obviously, they didn't win games that they were, except 1 or 2. Yeah, so actually they can win this game. But I'll tell you this. I like how they D up on the perimeter. I like how they get to the free throw line, whether they're at home or on the road. And I like how they start. When you want to say that Maryland Eastern Shore is a 10-point dog with this year's version versus last year's, that is Jekyll and Hyde. And I'll take Jekyll and cash with that shit. So just give me Maryland Eastern Shore full game, whatever we can get, as long as it's 10 or higher.
All right, there we go. Maryland Eastern Shore.
It's dropped.
Smart. Yes.
Yeah, again, they took some money.
Yeah, and a team that during the course of the season they've gotten better. That's what you like to see. Those teams that maybe weren't good early, they're starting to pour it on and play better right now. Taking on the Howard Bison there. We'll see if they're able to hang close. They're getting 9.5 right now in that one. How many games do you have left in terms of the games you have on your list here, Max?
Only a couple more, so I'm good to spread it out.
All right, there we go. Just from a time perspective, because we're going to wrap in about 10 minutes from now. So we'll hit a rapid fire for the rest of the main board. Look, I'm going to bring it up because everyone wants to hear about it. Duke, North Carolina. Duke 3.5-point road favorites, 151 the total. This is going to be an absolute and utter, Coach K, reach the vomit bag fest. For me, they're going to just go on and on about how this is going to be the last time that Coach K coaches for Duke at Dean Dome in Chapel Hill. I mean, you're going to hear that ad nauseum, I'm sure, during the broadcast today. You know what, guys? North Carolina is starting to turn it around a little. They're playing better, North Carolina. We know they've been kind of erratic, kind of spotty, and I think, they've got a little bit of size to maybe, put up with Banchero and and what Duke can throw at you there as well. And you look at them; they've won 4 straight, 3-1 ATS. Could quibble about the competition. I thought Virginia Tech win was solid, but you're right. BC, North Carolina State, Louisville, 3 weaklings. Are they now going to be able to handle this Duke team? It's a question mark. I don't really have a strong take because, look, obviously Duke's probably better, but if you want to lay 3.5 in a rivalry game against a North Carolina team that you could say is playing some of their best basketball of the year, not me. So it's probably going to be a game that, for me, ends up being a pass in this one. Total's gone up. I could see it. North Carolina's kind of gone and trended that way a little bit, overs lately in their recent games. Duke, not so much. They've gone under, but series history, we've seen 91-73, 91-87, 89-76. I mean, 4 straight overs, and they've flown over the total. each of the four meetings, last four with these two rivals. So hard to argue with that. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, this was a pass for me. I wanted nothing to do with this game. If I were to play out of free play, I'd take North Carolina here. Duke might be a little bit better. And I don't know what to make of this North Carolina team. I don't know how good they are all year long. They've been good, decent on the road, then they lose. Even at home, they've looked really good or they've gotten blown out. So this is one I'm way far away from. But if I had to, gun to the head, give me the points with North Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. Well, finally, you know what? The pieces have been there. Leaky Black, when he's on his game, he can. RJ Davis, of course, Brady Manick. They brought him over as a transfer. Armando Baycott, and they all got in double figures in the last game against Louisville, and they've all played a little bit better lately. They're going to need all of those guys on board here against Duke today. Like I say, the over's the only thing I would probably consider betting here. Max, you can talk about an opinion on this game. You could rip this game if you want. The floor is yours.
Listen, I think that I got a lot of love for Coach K. Obviously, he's one of my people, so I'm cool with him. And I think that even though I despise this Duke basketball program from a player perspective, from a betting perspective, I still think that we're going to see a normal Duke North Carolina game, just like every other year. Lots of points, like you said, Ian. First half over is the way that I'm going with this game, and I'll live bet the side and try and arbitrage it and hit the dog early, hit the favorite if the dog gets up, and just roll like that.
All right, we'll do throw out a couple more on the main board now. We'll do as we continue along. We're down to just the last few here. We've got SMU, Wichita State. Good one in the AAC here. Wichita State 1.5-point home favorites, 135 the total in this game. Wichita, what a weird season for them because they were so shit for earlier this year, and they were going through a brutal stretch, and then they had that pause, and they've kind of like turned their season around a little bit since then. They beat Central Florida, they beat Tulsa, they did have a 1-point loss at Tulane, but they've at least played better. Before that little 10-day pause they had, they were just falling apart. They had lost 4 straight. They blew a game at home against Tulane. They blew a game at home against Cincinnati. They got blown out by Memphis. It had really been a rough stretch for this Wichita State team. I don't doubt they're playing a little bit better, but here's the problem. You're playing against a really good SMU Mustangs team right now that's playing some terrific basketball that I think is fully capable of going on the road and winning games in, tougher environments than Wichita these days. You look at their road record, just flawless for the most part, outside of the Cincinnati game, which looks more like an anomaly. The other games, they at Tulsa winning cover, at Tulane winning cover, at Memphis, they won by 8 outright as underdogs. They crushed South Florida on the road. They beat a Temple team in their last game at home that's playing pretty good. I don't understand people liking Wichita State this much that they bet them to -2. I think SMU is the side here. I think they're just better. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I had nothing on this one. I haven't liked this Wichita State kind of team. I haven't bet on them the last few weeks. I don't want them here. I like SMU. And I had nothing on the total because I'm a Wichita State under at home. SMU's been decent on the road. They've gone, a little bit over. This was just dead pass for me.
Yeah, and by the way, they're playing some DSMU. DSMU at times earlier in the season.
Better.
Not as good, but right now they're playing good. 39% shoot, 28% from three-point range. I'll tell you what, Wichita's offense does not work against any kind of team that plays solid defense. That's been their issue much of the season. Max, anything for you here?
Yeah, no, I think that this is just a pass for me.
All right, nothing wrong with that. All right, let's go to a couple more. I'm going to throw out these two in the we'll throw out 3 more quickly, then we'll get to Max's games. Let's do Kentucky, Alabama. I'll throw them out here. Kentucky, Alabama, Central Florida, Memphis, Oregon, Utah, and Mississippi State, Arkansas. Just briefly on these, I'll just say in the Kentucky, Alabama game, I think it's a really good Alabama spot, and I think they're capable of winning this game. I like Alabama actually here. Remember, Kentucky lost at Auburn. Kentucky is not, unbeatable. I know they had the terrific win at Kansas as well. But to me, I like the fact that Alabama's in a pretty good bounce-back type of spot here, I think. Laying 1.5 at home. Charged up environment there in Tuscaloosa. Kentucky still on the road at times, can be had. So I think it sets up well for Alabama. Central Florida and Memphis. I'm not laying 6 with Memphis, but they're trying to avenge a loss to Central earlier this year. And Central did blow out South Florida, and I had them the other night, but they also had a game against, they've also had a couple of weird losses, and the Wichita game was a bad loss for them. So Memphis probably does bring it here. I just don't want to lay 6 with them. And then the other two, Oregon, Utah. I'm tempted to lay the 3 with Oregon because I know this Colorado and Utah back-to-back on the road is not easy, but I just think they're a lot better than Utah. And I'm tempted to lay the 3 there. And then the other one, Mississippi State, Arkansas. I think it could get over the total. That's probably the way I would go. I mean, Arkansas is starting to get their offense going again. So that game, I think, could see enough points to get over that number. So I'll throw those at you, Connor. What did you think of them? Kentucky, Alabama first.
Yeah, Kentucky, Alabama. I love the way Kentucky's been playing. Alabama's been great as well. I have nothing there. I had nothing. Did you mention the Utah game? Is that what you said? The
Utah.
Memphis? Yeah, I got nothing. I like Utah. It's just I know Oregon's playing well. This is just the toughest spot here. Yeah, I'm going to dare them to go in and win by 4. So give me the plus 3.5 with Utah.
It's the only concern I have too. And Mississippi State, Arkansas as well.
Oh man, this was a difficult one. I wrote down earlier last night. I have nothing on it right now. I had no bet on it.
I like Arkansas too. I mean, I'm not stepping in front of Arkansas. They're getting right.
They're rolling.
Well, they're only laying 5-6 at home. I think they can get it done. I actually might lay the points with them.
They got it done last Saturday, barely for me. I mean,
that little quartet, Max. Did you have a better opinion on anything there?
No, I don't have anything on any of those games.
There we go. All right, we'll do one more main card game, and then we'll get to Max's final 2 looks on the card, and that's UCLA, Arizona State. UCLA 10-point road favorite. Oh, and Gonzaga, BYU as well. We'll do those 2. And Gonzaga 13, 159 in that game. UCLA, Arizona State. UCLA 10-point road favorites, 130 the total in that game. When I look at it with these two, I mean, it's a lot of points to be given BYU at home, but I just don't like stepping in front of Gonzaga. I just don't. I'm not going to do it. You know, this team is just outstanding. On the road this year, they've been able to get it done. Now they're only, and we've seen this before where, against BYU last year, earlier this year, 110-84. I know it's revenge for BYU. That was an embarrassing defensive game. Are things really going to change that much? And I'm not so sure about that. And let's keep in mind last year, Gonzaga won 82-71 at BYU, a double-digit win. So you can take the points if you want, but I'm not going against Gonzaga in this one. Lean over as well. And then the other one, UCLA, Arizona State. I think UCLA could actually crush Arizona State, to be honest with you. And I think they'll be motivated to do it after losing to Arizona. It's a lot of points to be laying on the road. Let's see. They've obviously had Juzang on the injury report, Jaquez on the injury report in the last few games, but I think UCLA might be the side there. Connor, those 2 games, Gonzaga, BYU, UCLA, Arizona State.
Yeah, I mean, is BYU going to all of a sudden snap out of it? This team has looked horrible. I watched that game, the San Francisco game. That was bad. Man, oh man, they got their ass whipped. Lost at Santa Clara, at Pacific. I can't take them the way they're playing. I mean, I need more. So again, Gonzaga's rolling. I know usually they play well in Provo against Gonzaga. Usually they already got blown out earlier in the year. But yeah, I can't take them here. And if I had to with the UCLA game, I don't love it, but I'd probably lay it with them if you could get under 10.
I agree with that. All right, Connor, if you have thoughts on those games, you can mention them. And if not, let's get to your final 2 looks.
Max?
All right. So I'm definitely looking at some spots that aren't really added board, but are still mid-major to me. Grand Canyon against California Baptist is a spot that I think that Grand Canyon is going to be able to flex their scoring muscle and getting over their team total of 73.5 versus California Baptist undisciplined defense at times is going to be a granted thing that happens in this game. I think California Baptist has to play from behind, and Grand Canyon's dynamite backcourt of Blackshear and Holland Woods helps me get this team total over.
All right, there we go. What else have you got?
Yeah, listen, I think that when you look at Chicago State, this is a team that definitely has given up some points, but they are going to Stephenville and they are playing Tarleton, and that means I got to take an under. Tarleton plays completely different basketball on the road compared to at home, even though Brandon Bretson, Bryce Johnson, Jashawn Corbett are all improved players for Chicago State, which is very strange for me to say on a show. I still think that going up against this ball hawking defense in Tarleton will be a little too much. Under 132 is the way that I'm going with it. And fuck you, Chicago State.
I don't see Chicago State putting up points in bunches against Tarleton State's a really good defensive team, actually. And, of course, they play at a snail pace, 327 in the country in tempo. And I like Billy Gillespie. I've always been a fan of his as a coach. So Tarleton State.
I just wasn't a fan of his abuse towards players, which got him fired and relegated to D2 and now D1.
Yeah, that part, the human element, you're right. The human element's a little dicey. Good basketball coach, but
absolutely
not. At times, calm down. Don't give the kids grief like that. That's not cool. Are we missing anything, Max, or is that it?
No, that's it. I just had those two plays that I really wanted to get out there. And of course, for all us Canadians, Ian, we can watch these WAC Digital games on the WAC Digital Network for free on a international freaking stream, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of CAA does that a lot. WAC does that a lot. You got to go to the conference sites, and they actually have the game streaming there on the site. So some of those conferences, you can actually go to the site of the conference, and that's where you'll find the games to be able to watch them. And that's definitely another one, the WAC, that does it that way. Great stuff with Maxwell Smart, with Conor Mack. Awesome Saturday show. We packed a shit ton of games into an hour and 45 minutes. Most of the big ones as well. Hit the like button. We appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, 245 live viewers, hit the like button. We did talk Clemson there, Craig, earlier in the show. I like Georgia Tech a little bit in that game. Yeah, we did talk about it. Great stuff. We'll get to best bets to wrap things up in just a moment, coming up right after this. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Manscaped. Promo code PubSports, 20% off your purchase. Lawnmower 4.0 or any Manscaped product, 20% off with promo code PubSports. And MyBookie.ag. Of course, we've got college basketball, NBA, NHL daily, UFC on weekends, Super Bowl 56 next weekend. Sign up for an account. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit. MyBookie.ag, promo code Pub Sports. All right, best bets to wrap up the Saturday college basketball net profit show. Maxwell Smart, you've got a ton of games on that added board that definitely appealed to me as well. Which one would you make a best bet?
I actually went to a conference in the WCC to get our best bet for this show. Ian, when I look at this spot, we just saw these two teams play. It was a bad performance for Pepperdine. We see Pacific play night and day on the road, and they're on the road today. Give me a number under 3, and you want me not to take Pepperdine? I may be walking into a trap, but I'm taking Pepperdine. I'm taking Lorenzo Romar and those sons of bitches in Malibu, and they're going to get me a 3-point win -2. Let's go Pepperdine.
Max, does it go over again? Because he just played. It goes over again? Yeah.
There you go. But he's liking Pepperdine. He's riding the waves with Pepperdine here, -2 against Pacific. Best bet for Maxwell Smart. All right, Conor Mack, what do you got best bet?
Shout out to everyone in the chat, the regulars, Lance LaRose, James Little, Andrew Carr, Star Child, and then Tony, who donated, Brewster, my guy Trey Day as well, Jake the Snake, Jake Kaiser for the donos from earlier. And shout out to all the real ones, Real Deal Prime, Banana and Grapes, all the regulars, Tony, Nathan Cerna. Someone asked, yeah, I know Ian liked it a little bit more. Max wasn't here. I'm not crazy about it, but do you have Wake Forest? Did you bet that? Because I haven't bet it, but you did?
Yeah, I like Wake Forest first half, and I like the first half over in that game.
Yeah.
I'm on the full game over. Yep. Okay. So I like points. Yep.
So there you go. kind of triple endorsement there. That was my lean. All right, let's go to the one I told you that I kind of circled from last night. Double bet, same game. I talked about it earlier, the Beno. Over here, George Washington, Davidson, over 139.5, and I'm taking the 9.5. So 2-1. Give me a side and the total in that game.
There you go. How about a little GW plus the points and also Davidson, George Washington over the total. Two best bets in the same game for Conor Mack. My best bet, give me those Jim Larinaga Miami Hurricanes +4 against Virginia. I love the spot. I love the number. Bounce back. They've been just nails, this team on the road, both straight up and ATS this year. They find a way to compete at the very least down to the buzzer. I think they got a good chance to win the game outright too. So sprinkle on that money line, I think, as well. Miami +4 against Virginia for my best bet. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Saturday Net Profit College Basketball Show. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. Conor and Max will be with you, as always, Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, all week long for Net Profit. And I'll be on with the Pub Hub Crew NBA right before that at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, all week long right here on Pub Sports Radio. For Conor, Mack, and Maxwell Smart, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday, a great weekend. Cash some tickets, enjoy the games, and good luck. We'll see you again, Conor and I, next Saturday, and of course Maxwell and Conor Monday for the Net Profit College Basketball Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.